Art,
Hey,
welcome.
Nick.
It is the 2024 Road to Reinvent special for AWS On Air. This is a bit weird for me. I'm usually behind the camera for these shows, but I guess they wanted me to host with you for some reason this week. How you
Well, I
doing?
need all the help I can get, Nick. So thank you for coming on. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the next couple of weeks. It's hard for me to believe those of us in the audience who are in the US, we are T-minus 6 days before Thanksgiving, which I think maybe a hot opinion. I think that's biggest holiday potentially of the year in the US. Kind of lots of food, good food, and family, right, Nick?
Yeah, I've come to the realization that as an adult and even as a kid, I think all of my holidays are built around food. That's how I like it. Love the Thanksgiving feast, love the Christmas feast, 4th of July hamburgers. I've noticed that that's really all I care about in the holidays. So Thanksgiving is fantastic in my book.
Off the charts with the food. But outside of Thanksgiving, excuse me, we're also really close to one of the biggest events here for AWS. Thus the show title today, Road to Reinvent. So it's hard for me to also believe we're only 6 days from Thanksgiving, but we're not all that far from December, and reInvent is right around the corner, Nick. And so today, what do we have in store for folks?
Man, it's going to be a great special. And, I realized I misspoke. I'm getting red lights flashing. My favorite holiday, of course, is reInvent for AWS. Let me just review those talking points. But it's going to be a great show. We're going to have some special guests interviewed here talking about how you can get ready for reInvent. Fun fact, Art, I think like 70% of people at reInvent every year are there for their first time. So should be some great tips from people that have been through a bunch of different reInvents to help everybody prep for that. We've got 3 launches queued up instead of just the normal 2. So lots of demos from exciting recent announcements. And lots of fun stuff kind of along the way there. It should be a fun little 2-hour special we've got here.
No, I'm really excited. You and I have had the pleasure of being able to review some of these demos in advance and talk to some of our guests. I think we have a really exciting episode here. The demos aside are always really cool, but I think a couple of our guests will be really interesting for the audience who may not have seen all of these folks, and we'll get some new opinions outside of just you and I and what's happening here with reInvent and our ideas as well.
Yeah, and before we get to that, Art, I think we are featured all over the world today. So we should give a quick shout out. It looks like right now we are in Canada, Germany, and the UK. So shout out to all of our viewers from those countries. Let us know. Obviously, Thanksgiving isn't as big of a holiday maybe there. So what kind of food are you guys eating? Yeah, not or at all. What kind of food are you guys eating? And for the US people watching right now, what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish? It has been a red hot debate back here for the 30 minutes tech check that we have before the show starts. So let us know where you're watching from. Let us know your favorite Thanksgiving side dish, and we'll go from there. Yeah, Canada's Thanksgiving has already happened.
Yeah. Canada is always beating us to the punch, right? Thanksgiving, I think, is October in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So. Yep, that was embarrassing by me. But let us know y'all's favorite food, whatever your favorite holiday.
I don't think there's such a thing as Thanksgiving in Germany, Nick, or the UK, the other places.
I like to think once a year people still have a family dinner that's super awkward, and then they get the same experience.
Speak for yourself, Nick. Mine is never awkward at all.
And you are doing Thanksgiving right, Art. Well, I think without further ado, why don't we kick the show off here? It looks like most of our audience is here. I think we've got our first guest coming in. Why don't we bring her on screen here? Debbie,
absolutely.
Let's cue the intro.
All right. Welcome, Leah. I think this is your first time ever joining us on AWS On Air, right?
It is. Thank you all for having me. And thanks to everybody who's tuned in and live right now, getting excited for reInvent.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Could you give us the audience a little bit of an introduction to yourself and what you do here at AWS?
Sure. I am the head of product marketing here at AWS. I joined AWS in 2013, so I'm 11 years in and counting, and it's been a lot going on in those last 11 years. During this time, I've had roles in public relations, communications, strategic marketing, and today I lead the very talented and really hardworking right now product marketing team. And I say hardworking because for reInvent, this is like our biggest moment of the year because we do all the product launches, we put together the main stage keynotes, we help thought leaders across AWS with their innovation talks, we help with the tracks. We have some exciting things coming in the AWS Village. So we are full steam ahead, getting really excited about seeing 60,000 of our friends in just a little over, what did you say 6 days? 6 days from now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And, I think it's awesome that you lead what is universally known as the best org, I think, in AWS or Amazon and product marketing. I think that's Art and I's completely unbiased opinion.
That's right. Even though we might be in it.
Yeah, completely unbiased. But we're really excited to have you on, Leah. Let's talk about those 11 years and counting. This will be your 12th reInvent, right?
It will.
Man,
I've been to every reInvent except the very first one in 2012.
Yeah, and I've heard they really started kicking off in year 2.
Of course.
I'm sure that's probably, obviously related. So what are some of your, you've been doing it for so long. What are some of your favorite memories maybe from reInvent's past? How has it kind of changed over the years since you came here 11 years ago?
Well, I was actually kind of thinking about this after you all invited me here. I think that each year we've grown, and I'm always kind of surprised at that. Once I'm through a reInvent, I kind of think to myself, there's no way we can top that next year. There's just no way that we're going to be able to raise the bar. And we do every year. I think in 2013, we had maybe around 20 launches. We had 2 main keynotes. The programming was for 3 days, and we had, a few hundred sessions. And then if I think about last year, we had more than 200 launches. We have 5 keynotes now. The programming starts on Sunday, and a lot of people come for Sunday. And I think this year we're going to have close to 2,000 sessions. So it's just been, a lot of growth and bigger and better. And really, that's all designed for all of you that come. And I don't know. I'm sure I thought that 70% of people that come to reInvent are new, but I bet on this live stream, there's probably folks that have gone to a lot of them. And I'm curious what people think are their biggest memories or their fondest moments of reInvent over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Drop in the chat. What years have you been able to come, and what are some of your favorite things that you've seen happen at reInvent? Yeah, this is my, I think 5th or 6th one now. I think my favorite memory by far is checking out the sports forum last year and getting to look at the F1 race car simulator. Did not know that was something AWS, participated in, and that was pretty darn cool for me. So what about you, Art? You've been to 4 or 5 as well, right?
This is my 4th one, and I've had the privilege of presenting at quite a few of those. And I would say my excitement is just meeting with the customers and talking to people, and kind of also the very first time you step onto the stage. It's a unique experience with a few hundred people standing in front of you type thing. And then my moment of embarrassment is one year they had like a riding kind of fake simulated bull in the expo hall that you could try to ride on, which seemed so easy until I had somebody do a quick recording of me, and I'm barely on that like thing for like 2 or 3 seconds to get on the video. So, there's my embarrassing moment.
Jeez, yeah. I think the coolest thing about reInvent too is that there's something for everybody. It's not just your standard tech conference. And we got favorite memory of reInvent was actually going. That's just everything. That's a good one. And it looks
I think one of the things that's important about reInvent that we were talking about before is how, to Leah's point, is we have not lost that kind of customer-centric viewpoint throughout it's kind of embossed in the entire experience. All of the days from Sunday through Friday, there's an experience there. It's an easy experience to learn as well. I think that's one of the amazing things. It's not this conference that talks super high level to you, and we really can get into the details and give customers and people who come a lot of really hands-on experiences that are.
Yeah, and Leah, that's like Art said, we've been talking about what, kind of going off of King Super Mook's comment here. Why should people come? Like, what is kind of the unique selling point of reInvent, and what does it have to offer that maybe other tech conferences don't?
Yeah, I think that from the beginning, we have really, really focused on making this conference about education. And while we have lots of interactive and exciting experiences for you, at the heart of everything is that it's really about the chance to come here, to get hands-on with technologies, to go into workshops and sessions, or if you're far along your journey, to get certified. And so we're really focused on how do we help this community of folks that come find something for them that teaches them and inspires them, and that kind of takes you a step further in your journey. And then I think the second thing that's kind of really associated with that is that it's also always been about the community.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember from the first year that I came to reInvent, and I've been in the technology industry for more than 25 years and working in enterprise technology, and I was kind of blown away by the amount of customer participation that we had in everything that was reInvent, right? We not only, everything from having guest speakers on stage from customers across all the keynotes, but I think that we have a couple, hundreds of customers who actually present in our sessions. They engage in the workshops. They do peer-to-peer events, and there's all kinds of networking and opportunities. It's really all about all of you all who come, getting a chance to interact with each other and learn from each other, get inspired, create connections. And so those two things, that education and community, to me are really special, and they haven't changed. And no matter how large we grow, we'll always be focused on that.
And I think for me too, Leah, with the community aspect, all of those community people getting together also is inspiring for those of us as well. Reverse the kind of also at AWS to kind of, understand how people use AWS and see those communities gather and get together. I think it's a really awesome opportunity for us to see that, but also, for people who are coming to actually meet like-minded people in the community, in their kind of community area to get together. I think it's really good.
Yeah, and we've got a great question. Begin Hunt here actually stole, I think, Art and mine's next question for you, Leah. Do you have any advice or suggestions for first-time attendees, returning attendees, to kind of maximize their experience there? Make friends, network with people, kind of building on that community comment that you just had.
I do. I think first off, if you're coming for the first time, be prepared. It can be, it's a lot, and it can be overwhelming. And we have a lot of ways for you to kind of keep up with what's going on. We have the app, and really encourage you to download that and keep abreast of everything that's going on with sessions and workshops. I also think that we're going to be announcing a lot of new things, and so subscribe to the news blog, and that's where you can get all the latest things. And then when you see what the latest news is, whatever you're interested in, there's going to be opportunities to dive deeper or learn more, or check out a demo, or join into a community hands-on event. I mean, one of my favorite moments of reInvent was a few years ago when we launched the Deep Racer League, which is, it was a way to engage folks to learn about and get hands-on with machine learning by developing these race cars that we then had a tournament and a competition, and just really fun to see how people took that on. And that is a way to learn with the community and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved seeing those the deep racer cars. Where I thought when I first got hired, I thought one of the coolest use cases we had. I remember walking by the deep racer thing even in Seattle and getting to see that program for the first time. Seeing the Deep Racer League at reInvent, such a cool use case for understanding the tech, I think.
And how intense everybody is, by the way, when you walk by that. It's it's both a game, but everybody wants to win in the end too. It's okay, yeah. So anything, we don't have a lot of time here with you, Leah, and I want to thank you again for your time today. Could you maybe, before you get out of here, talk to us about anything you're particularly excited about this this year. Is there any hints you might be able to drop about things people could expect?
Well, I can't give away too much. We gotta leave a reason for you all to come. But I can say we have a lot of cool innovations and things up our sleeves. It is going to be, each year it is a time for us to bring new products and capabilities to you all for the first time, and I'm really excited about that. And I think that we have some new experiences. The other thing that I really feel is that in the expo hall and in the AWS Village, we're really upping our game this year with experiences and demos that let people get hands-on. And so I think there might be some inspiring and pleasant surprises for everybody.
Yeah. I know we're looking forward to it. Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. I know obviously this is your busiest time of the year because you're basically helping, run this event. So thanks for taking the time to give us some tips and give us a little preview of what we can maybe expect this year.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. I mean, that's a rare interview to get.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of cool tips as well, and some great ways from somebody who's been there for, this is her 12th one out of, 13 that are about to happen. So really cool to hear from her as well.
Absolutely. And, being somebody that was hired, I didn't have a ton of cloud computing experience when I got out of college and was hired at AWS, and getting to go to my first reInvent, I think speaking to those two pillars of like community and education, it was so cool. I was expecting just a normal tech conference, maybe a couple speeches, and for me to be kind of glazed over the whole time. But there's so many hands-on demos and like opportunities to just take your laptop and meet some experts and talk to them and ask them for tips, ask them how to do stuff. You're able to learn so much, even if you're just a kind of beginner like I was, which is, I think, the coolest part of the event.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my other things you were talking about how it's the easiest thing. All you really need to do is show up to some of these places with your laptop. Particularly if you end up at a builder session or a workshop where it's hands-on, there's hands-on work that can be done, and there's an AWS expert, actually in those sessions, experts that are there to give you hands-on experience as well. And I encourage people to do that. I know that Leah will be there, our prior guest, but also both Nick and I will be at reInvent as well. And it's a great opportunity to meet with folks like yourselves who are out there in the audience today as well. We would encourage you to show up. And it looks like we have somebody online from France. So welcome.
We got France,
say
Spain, New Zealand, Congo, Algeria. We're all over Italy, all over the place here. So I think while we've got all these people from all over the world, Art, let's get to some of those innovations and talk about a recent launch we're really excited about that I think we might be able to talk about at the event this year. Why don't we bring in our first guest here? Let's cue him up, Debbie. Hey, Michael, Usama, what's going on, guys?
Hi, all. Hi, Rick. Hi, all.
All right. How are you guys? Are you as pumped for reInvent as we are? How many of you guys been to?
You bet. I've been there a total of one time before, so not the impressive CV that you and Leah had, but I'm excited about going again. I do have an opportunity to go this time around, but typically we tend to let our customers go there because I think it's all for them. But yeah, I'm presenting this year, so I'm going as well.
All right. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, I have not gone yet. I'm really looking forward to going. I've been to a couple of other streaming events around like data analytics, but I'm still looking forward to going to reInvent and visiting Vegas.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here.
Don't forget the water. That is my advice.
Don't forget the espresso. We need some coffee.
That's true, but you need to be hydrated.
Yeah.
What time do you take the water? Water in the morning and espresso at night, or how does that work?
I generally alternate every hour: 6 a.m. espresso, 7 a.m. coffee. Then you just keep going until about 6 p.m. Makes for some entertaining nights if you can get to sleep or not. All right. Well, guys, why don't we get to your launch here? So first and foremost, can you kind of give our audience an insight into what you do for the company, like why you guys are on the show, and also what is Amazon MSK? Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some people here that don't know what that acronym stands for.
Yeah, I'll go first. I do product management for Amazon Web Services in general, and more specifically for Amazon MSK. Amazon MSK is one of the services that we offer to our customers. It helps customers run Apache Kafka workloads. So Apache Kafka is an open source software, and run it more easily on AWS. So we take care of a lot of the operational overhead and the heavy lifting so that customers can just focus on building their applications.
Gotcha.
So
what does it stand for? What does MSK stand for?
So it's managed streaming for Apache Kafka.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So the objective here is simplification, right? Make your life easier. If you're using Apache Kafka, this will help, make it simplify your life here a lot, at least is the goal for customers.
Yeah, so we want to make it simple. We want to make it highly secure. We want to make sure that these services are always up and running, so resilient, because customers take a lot of dependency on it in terms of running very critical applications for their customers. So yes, those are, but you're right. At the heart of it all, the goal is to make it easy for customers to do all or achieve all these objectives.
All right. And one other thing, Michael, you didn't get a chance to intro yourself. So tell us, obviously your name is Michael. Tell us what you do here at AWS as well.
Hey, thank you so much, Art. So I'm also a product manager. I work with Osama on the product management team for Amazon MSK. It's been a very exciting product to work on, looking at how customers really use real-time data to meet their needs. We've had customers from financial services to gaming companies to electric vehicle companies. Everyone is really just trying to get more value from their data really quickly. So as a product manager, I get to talk to these customers, and it's very exciting to bring new products and new features like Express, which we're going to talk about, to help them have a better experience with MSK and Apache Kafka.
All right. Wow. I'm pretty excited. And I think some of those groups that you talked about, especially some of the financial services, and there are a lot of game developers out there that are usually on here with us at Twitch. So I think this will really resonate with that audience as well. So maybe the next thing we should do is actually define Express Brokers and talk about the new feature that we've launched here. I think that's Osama.
Yeah. I'll go. So Express Brokers is really just a reimagining of how we offer the Kafka experience on AWS. So as I mentioned, Kafka is open source. It's great. Customers love it. And that's actually one of the reasons why we launched it in Amazon, to make it easier for customers to do something that they already love. But what we realize is that as customers starting using Kafka more and more in AWS, we started identifying some patterns and some opportunities of how we can make it even better for customers. And this is also in staying with the DNA of AWS, where we listen to our customers and then go sort of, address that feedback. So as that usage grew, we realized, okay, how can we go back to first principles and reimagine how Kafka can be sort of that much better than AWS? And we identified 4 areas in which we can make improvements. One is performance. Second is elasticity. Third is resilience. And fourth is ease of use. So very quickly, performance, when we say performance, Express Brokers can give up to, so as we said, Kafka is something that helps customers move data. So performance is really measured in how quickly data can be moved. And Express Brokers can offer up to 3 times that performance than a standard Apache Kafka broker that a customer can run either on vanilla AWS or anywhere else for that matter. And that really unlocks a lot of interesting use cases that they can go use. Secondly, on the elasticity front, and we can talk more about it, let you ask follow-up questions. I'm sure you will have some. On the elasticity front, really the value of cloud is how quickly customers can add capacity and remove capacity. And that gives them the flexibility to not have to sort of, have these really over-provisioned static architectures, and Express Brokers can scale up and down up to 20 times faster. So that's orders of magnitude faster than what customers could before. Yeah, I'll pause here.
Yeah, sorry. So with all those numbers, it's pretty impressive. I think what we should do actually is jump into the demo here, so people can see some of the performance and speed here.
100%. 100%.
Absolutely. While we're bringing that up, because I'm excited to see this thing in action, I wanted to ask Usama too, and Michael. I know you guys are talking about kind of the goals of this new feature we just launched, right? And there were kind of 4 pillars you guys were describing to us about like what exactly it does. So I want to make sure we highlight, those 4 advantages to this new feature launch as we're going through the demo here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for this demo, there are 2 key objectives I'd like us to get to. So the first one would be to demonstrate, like Osama mentioned, how much easier it is to provision and manage an MSK cluster. That's objective number 1. The second objective, like Osama also mentioned, is the power of elasticity. So I would also like to show you how much easier, safer, and faster it is to scale out an Express broker compared to a standard Apache Kafka broker. So let's start with the first objective. I'm going to create an Express-based cluster using the Amazon MSK console. So let's say demo cluster. And as I do that, I'll also compare that to what it looks like if you are going to create a standard cluster. So right now on Amazon MSK, you have a couple of options for versions you can pick. In this case, I'm going to switch this to a standard broker first of all. You see here, I can pick a couple of instance sizes depending on how much power and how much data I'm going to push through my cluster. I can choose how many availability zones I'm in. But let's pause here for a second. This is a very important part of the difference between standard and Express. For standard clusters, you have to reason about how much storage you need for the broker. Because like we said, we're streaming in a lot of data into the Apache Kafka cluster. We also want to provision storage to actually keep that data for a period of time. It could be a couple of hours, it could be a week, it could be a month. But when you're provisioning a standard-based cluster, you have to calculate how much capacity you're going to need. There are a couple of other great features MSK has, like provision storage throughput. You can have local and tiered storage as well. These all need some level of effort and level of Kafka understanding for you to get it right. Now, let's rewind a second. And if I pick an Express broker, watch what happens. That entire section, all those capabilities, all the math, all the engineering time that needs to go into accurately sizing your storage goes away. And in an Express-based cluster, Amazon MSK takes full responsibility and full management of the storage.
I just want to say I'm clearly an Express kind of person here. I don't envision myself trying to make those calculations all the time. Maybe Usama and Michael, you're better at me at the calculation, but my problem is usually I am not 100% confident with the amount of memory, so I allocate a little bit extra, and a little bit of extra over time creates a little bit of extra, and a lot of money. So not my ideal situation. So I'd rather have someone plan it out. So this is ideal for me.
Yeah, 100%. And happy to have you as a customer. After choosing storage mode, the other parts of setting up an Express-based cluster are pretty much the same with standard. You can place your brokers across a couple of availability zones and subnets. MSK allows you get great security access, picking security groups, choosing what kind of authentication you want. And I'm just going to walk through this, but I'm not going to fully create the cluster, but I'm going to show you the full workflow because it takes about 15 minutes for a cluster to finish creating. You can choose monitoring features, third-party features, and all that, and then pretty much review. But I already have some clusters already created, which we can go in and actually see these clusters live and see them in operation. I'm starting off with a standard cluster, and I'm going to juxtapose or compare that to an Express cluster. So you can see the difference in just the manageability of these two clusters. So starting off here, I'm looking at a standard-based cluster. You see we have a couple of important CloudWatch metrics on the home page of the cluster. And the first dashboard here is what? This usage by broker. So storage management is so important that the first metric on our homepage is actually showing you how much storage you've used in your cluster. For this particular cluster, storage has gone up to 80% of the provision capacity, right? And when that happens, you actually start getting messages from MSK saying, look, your storage is almost getting exhausted. You need to go either remove data or increase storage. There are just a couple of things you have to consider. You have to have engineers maybe potentially getting paid for this and going to fix this issue. Because if your broker actually gets full, you risk losing access to your streaming data. So it's an availability risk. So this just emphasizes how important storage management is to customers who use MSK. A few other things here, you come into the properties, and you can see on a standard broker, you still have other great features that MSK provides. You still need to reason about how much storage volume, provision storage throughput, and all that.
Now, by the way, I can't emphasize enough for those out there that haven't yet done this before. You probably or likely have worked at a company that has let's take your inbox for Outlook, and it says, "Hey, you're running out of capacity at a certain point in time," and it gives you a warning. Just imagine that on a working scale, that your memory is going out, and imagine the amount of time that it takes you to potentially fix your inbox, to reimagine it. Maybe you can do it faster than I can in 30 minutes or something, but at this kind of level, this is taking away time and effort from your team, basically, to be managing this sort of error that's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I really like that example of your email storage, right? Whenever I come in and I open my email and say, well, you're almost full. Sometimes you actually try to delete emails, but you still lose incoming emails because there's just that lag between going back to the servers and updating the storage and all that. But you don't want to take that risk when you're running an enterprise scale business with hundreds of megabytes of data coming in, serving critical infrastructure like airlines or so. Yeah. So fast forward to present day. This is an Express-based cluster. And one thing you'll notice is, for the CloudWatch metrics, we've completely taken out that storage monitoring metric because you don't even need to look at it because we're taking full responsibility and control for it. So that takes one less thing for you to monitor and manage. You can come into the properties tab and you see again, when you go to storage, fully managed by MSK. So that's a recap on our first objective, which is just showing you on the MSK console the difference in experience just from provisioning and managing a simple Express-based cluster versus a standard cluster. And I'll pause there before we go on to the second objective, which is showing you how scaling is much more efficient, safer, and faster on Express. But before I go in there, anything you want to chime in, Usama or anyone else?
No, you're doing great.
Yeah, I'd love to get to that second pillar. I know we've only got about 4 minutes left here for this segment, so I want to make sure we leave you plenty of time to try to get us through the rest of this and show us the rest of the value here.
Oh, awesome. So thank you so much. So we talked about cases where you need to add capacity really quickly. And what I'm showing right here is a cluster where I have 6 brokers in it. In the first 3 brokers, most of my data is already being served on those first 3 brokers. You can see on the column that says online partitions, they are hosting all the data in this cluster. What has happened in this case is, before now, I had only 3 brokers in the cluster. But let's say I work for a company that provides a service for NFL games. And by Sunday, I need to increase capacity because I know there's going to be a lot more events and traffic. And this, my topic called football game events, is going to go up like 1.5x. So in Apache Kafka, the way you achieve that scale out is, first of all, you add more brokers. So in this case, I added brokers 4, 5, and 6. And then the second step would be to rebalance partitions, which is to move partitions, the 1053 number, move all those partitions from brokers 1, 2, 3 to distribute them across all the brokers on the cluster. Are you following, Art?
Yes, I am.
Great. Yeah. So by the end of this, you're going to be an Apache Kafka expert. So the goal is to redistribute all the partitions across the cluster. Now, what we've done in this example, we pretty much ran two scenarios, one for a standard cluster and one for an express cluster. The metrics you're seeing right here show before, say, 9 o'clock this morning, the first 3 lines are showing the number of partitions on brokers 1, 2, and 3. You still see a couple of lines at the bottom of the page which show that brokers 4, 5, and 6 did not yet have a lot of data. So our goal with rebalancing is to then distribute all the partitions so they're equally placed across brokers 1 to 6, not just brokers 1 to 3. So I'm going to walk you through step by step. Okay, sorry.
I'm going to have to ask you, can we skip to the express broker? They're telling me that we only have like a minute or so left, unfortunately.
Okay.
And I'm excited to see how we do the balancing with the express broker. Oh boy, here we go.
Great. So just before going to express, again, this is what it looks like in standard. The key point is in standard, it took me about 2.5 hours for my cluster to go from default, and there's a lot of disruption in traffic, 2.5 hours to rebalance the cluster. But on Express, that happened in 5 minutes.
This is incredible.
Wow.
By the way, I mean, first of all,
to 5 minutes. And that's not just the time. Also look at the traffic. So the traffic is the chart on the right. There's no disruption to my traffic. But if you look at standard, all this is like customers not being able to access your service. I've lost availability. I've lost the ability to continue to serve the high amount of traffic. This is standard, but in Express, compare this chart. Smooth sailing and partition rebalancing in 5 minutes, over 20 times faster.
Wow. I think that's a good place to end on, because I know we're getting yelled at that we're at time here, but 20 times faster. That's pretty crazy. So before you guys leave here, what we got like 30 seconds. What is like one statement you want to leave customers with about this new feature?
If you're using Kafka on AWS, why would you not use Express?
There we go. I like that one. Well, Michael, Usama, thank you both so much for joining us. Loved that. I'm insanely impressed. 20 times is pretty impressive there. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys in Vegas.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks, Art. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. All right.
Man, great lead segment there, Art, I think.
Yeah.
And
you know, just thinking about managing the storage and stuff, I mean, I'm very serious about how much that can save people as well. I mean, I don't know about other people, but you know, managing that. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that are able to see some pretty significant improvements.
Yeah, and I'm loving seeing the comments too. It looks like Volumes 253 is at a loss for words. His mind is just kind of blown right now. And speaking of hearing feedback from our viewers, just a quick shout out here. You guys, if you're coming to reInvent this year, why not use Apache Kafka with Express Brokers? Why not take this survey and maybe win a free hat from the AWS OnAir folks? So if you take this 2-minute survey, let us know your opinions on the show, what kind of stuff you want to see on it in the future. The first 50 respondents will get a code. And if you come see us at the AWS OnAir booth at reInvent, you get this super cool hat seen on your screen here while supplies last. So go ahead and take that survey. Let us know your opinions. I need something to read this weekend. So give me your unfiltered opinions there. But before we move on then, Art, I think we've got, is it a word from our sponsors now over at NVIDIA?
We do indeed. A word from our sponsors, and let's cue it up.
All right, let's go ahead and play it. All right, we'll see you guys in a few more minutes.
Everyone, my name is Jeff Marushak. I'm a senior solutions architect on the AWS DoD Air Force team, and I'm joined by my friend Sam from Ryder and Jen from NVIDIA. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Sam Julien. I'm the Director of Developer Relations for Ryder. We're a full-stack enterprise generative AI platform. Been around since about 2020 and focus on big enterprises and helping them scale generative AI.
Cool. Jen?
Yeah, thanks for having us. Jen Hoskins, I'm the head of cloud partnerships globally for Inception. Inception is NVIDIA's free startup program open to startups across stages, ages, verticals, and across the globe.
Great. So it sounds like Ryder, you guys have had you have some really good products. And I think we're going to see a little bit about that in a little bit here. But tell us about what Ryder offers. And it sounds generative AI, a lot of topics there, but fill us in on exactly what Ryder offers.
Yeah, so we could call ourselves a full stack AI platform, and what this means is that we really provide the whole kit and caboodle of building AI applications for enterprises. So that means we build our own LLMs, we have our own approach to graph-based RAG that we provide our customers, we have AI guardrails, and then we have actually an entire suite of development tools called AI Studio that enables business users and developers to build on the platform as well.
Gotcha. So based on what you're seeing with generative AI and just AI ML in general in the enterprise, what kind of things is Ryder kind of addressing? How is it helping your customers?
The thing that we're seeing a lot of in the enterprise space is what we call proof of concept purgatory, where a lot of enterprises, they're starting out building new development projects, and then they just sort of get lost in all of the details around scaling and putting things into production and really getting the ROI needed. They sink a lot of money into building AI infrastructure and resourcing, and then it's really hard to get things to production. And so that's the sweet spot that Ryder has, where we come in, we have this entire, not just a toolkit, but like a comprehensive platform that we enable these enterprises to actually build and deploy apps in days instead of weeks and months to really get that high impact ROI immediately.
Yeah, it's funny. When I talk to customers about AI ML, I usually preface it with, look, I'm not a data scientist. You know, I minored in economics in college, but that's it. But let me show you how we can train some models and what some hyperparameters are. So, hey, can you give us some examples of some of your customers and what they're using Ryder for?
Yeah, for sure. A few that jump to mind. One is Commvault. They use Ryder to accelerate their workflows and enable their go-to-market teams for self-serve enablement. And they used a custom-built AI chat app, basically, and that was deployed in a matter of weeks. Another one that I really like is Intuit. They doubled their employee productivity across 6 functions using Ryder. They found an 18x ROI through their AI applications built with us. Across their developer docs, customer stories, and lots of other long form and short form assets. And then lastly, Adore Me, the retailer, they did a big launch in a new international market and using some apps that they built with our AI Studio platform. And we're able to increase their non-branded search for their product description pages by 40%. So that's just a few out of our many enterprise customers.
Yeah, that's cool. So fill us in, and Jen, you can jump in here as well. But what NVIDIA and AWS products is Ryder currently using?
Yeah, so we're using SageMaker HyperPod with NVIDIA H100s to do all of our model training, basically. And some of that is using TensorRT to help our inference time. But yeah, that's the main thing, SageMaker HyperPod.
Yeah, and I think that would translate to the EC2 P5 instances for the
right.
100. So yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's see this in action. I kind of want to see what Ryder is doing. And Jen, you can jump in anytime here to add color as well.
But, I'll hear the shameless plug of Inception.
Yeah, go
for the demo.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we love that program. So I know this is a no slide zone, but I just wanted to show this quick. This is a diagram, not a slide. I just wanted to show a quick diagram because there's a lot of surface area to Ryder. And so basically we have like our underlying structure of our LLMs and our graph-based RAG and our AI guardrails. And then on top of that, we have this sort of platform as a service so our customers don't have to worry about things like inference and infrastructure and all that. And then we kind of have 2 parts of the platform. We have a pre-built application side and then the AI Studio platform. And so I'll walk through these as we go. So when you first log into Writer, you see kind of this side of the product, which is like the pre-built application side. So we have all of these pre-built applications and an entire repository of applications here where you can do things like generate blog copy or upload a recording and get a recap using our Palmyra models, that kind of thing. We also build custom applications for customers on this side of the product. And so lots of useful things here where you can generate copy. We have great features around developing a voice for your writing and your copy and that kind of thing, optimizing for SEO, that kind of thing. And then that's all built in to this side of the product. And then where I really spend a lot of my time in DevRel and developer experiences over in AI Studio. So it's the other part of the product where we have no-code tools as well as developer tools. So for example, if I go to build an application, you see that we've got like no-code applications that business users can build, like text generation, chat apps, that kind of thing. We'll be coming out with a research assistant application pretty soon. And then on the developer side, we have something called Writer Framework, which is our Python open source framework that really tightly integrates with our models and our RAG, our graph-based RAG called Knowledge Graph. And then we have our API and SDKs. So I'll just walk through a couple of little demos here. Before I do, any questions so far on any of that?
Now, I would ask our audience, we know we have James on the chat channel right now. Chime in to see, give us some ideas of, now that you've seen these two sides of Writer, kind of what thoughts that you would use or what kind of applications you would build with Writer. Feel free to throw them in the chat. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. We have Danny from Writer also in the chat as well, so feel free to share. So I wanted to share a couple of demos using our Palmyra Fin, our Palmyra Finance model, because it's on NVIDIA NIMs along with Palmyra Medical. It's a very cool domain-specific model that we've trained for finance, for financial services. So this is a no-code application that we built where we've got portfolio rebalancing recommendations. And what's cool about the no-code side is you can do this like easy design of building an interface and then chaining together prompts. And you can see you can actually like pick the model. You can refer to variables like the past quarter results or what's coming into the data, as well as down below, you can specify the different output formatting. So it's like really easy for business users to use. So let me just go over here and select PDF here from the portfolio rebalance. And so this data that I'm uploading is basically just some anonymized client portfolio data of stock holdings for a mutual fund. And basically I've uploaded that into the application and I can hit generate text, and it's going to go through and analyze like the positive impacts of the holdings, the negative impacts of the holdings, chain all of those together, feed that back into Palmyra Fin, and it's going to analyze that and make portfolio rebalancing recommendations. So let's see it in action. Great. So it's generating the positive stock selection, sector weighting, concatenation, all of these great things. And then down towards the end, it actually will, in Markdown, write the recommendations for rebalancing the portfolio for the customer. So this would be a great thing for financial advisors to use or other financial service industry employees, things like that. And very easy to build. The longest part is probably writing the prompts, but everything else is pretty straightforward, very easy to build. You can even deploy these applications and then access them using an API endpoint that we have. So it's super flexible, super easy to use platform.
I have a question for you. You'd mentioned that you guys develop your own models, and for a split second there, you said you can kind of choose the model for each of the widgets or whatnot. Can you go over a little bit, kind of the choice, like, because part of building an AI application is evaluating which model to use. Obviously, Writer's giving the customer the choice. Can you go through some of your models, maybe, or talk through that a bit?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's pertinent for this demo too, because actually towards the end where we actually do the final recommendations, we use our latest frontier model, Palmyra X004, to actually do the recommendations, because it's our latest and greatest model. You can do things like function calling and that kind of thing with it. So yeah, we have a wide range of models. They kind of break down though into like our frontier models, sort of our latest and greatest models, and then our domain specific models. So for example, right now, I just mentioned Palmyra X004. That's like our latest and greatest model that you would use for kind of all of your general purpose applications. And then we have Palmyra Med for healthcare and Palmyra Financial for financial services. Some of these other models that you're seeing in this list are some of our older models that we have for legacy applications and that kind of thing. And we have more domain-specific models coming. And then the other one that I'd like to call out is Palmyra Vision. This is our vision model, which means it can do things like interpret an image and give back a description of it. So this gets used a lot by customers for things like generating product descriptions or analyzing an ad for compliance for regulations or things like that. So yeah, wide range of models that we all build from scratch in-house. They're not fine tunings of other external models.
Yeah, and what's interesting, you point out those domain specific models. Most of the time, generally, you would start with like a general model and do your own specific training. Sounds like Ryder's done that, a little bit of that first step for the customer, and let's already pre-train it on some medical stuff, on some financial stuff, and use the right model for the right job.
Exactly. Yeah. And even our general purpose models, they're really actually trained specifically for business and for enterprise. So, kind of the data that goes into it and everything is all for the sake of the enterprise use case. So we do a lot of that work for you, where we, whether you're using a more general purpose one or a domain specific one, we take the brunt of all of that work of actually getting the model ready to use in an enterprise context. And then you can combine that with the graph-based retrieval and everything to bring in all of your data and everything that makes your business unique.
Yeah, we're kind of running low on time. I think we could talk for a half hour on graph-based RAG. I would love to get into that. But anything else you want to show in this demo before we talk about Inception really quick?
Yeah, I do. I just want to really quickly show the Writer framework. That's our Python framework for drag and drop, building a drag and drop UI, but then actually having the full Python code in the back. So this is a favorite of our developers who can just build apps really quickly in a Python environment. And so I've got this finance research dashboard here. It's pulling in stock data, and then it's feeding that information into the financial model that I mentioned. So I can just click visualize income statement, and it's going to go out and send all of that stock income data to Palmyra Fin. It's going to create charts and graphs using Python, and then actually produce an analysis from Palmyra Fin. So pretty amazing platform. Like, you can basically build SaaS applications with this framework, and all that you have to do is basically drag and drop these UI components around and then edit Python code just like you would in any other Python framework. So really remarkable platform, and it's open source. And so people can go play around with it.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, some of our viewers seem to be interested in this. Where would you direct folks who want to learn more about Writer? So
a couple different places you can go. Our developer docs are a really great place to go to learn as much as possible about the platform. We've got a whole section on Writer Framework, a whole section on our API and SDKs, and then the no code section. So definitely there. We also have writer.com/engineering, which is our engineering blog. That's a great resource for everybody to go to. Last resource I just want to call out, since we're on an AWS show, is we actually have some notebooks for folks who want to try to deploy the LLMs from Writer on AWS SageMaker. So we can make sure there's a link to that in the chat as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Sam. Jen, let's talk about Inception and how Writer is involved with NVIDIA Inception.
Yes, we partner in amazing ways, AWS and NVIDIA. Inception is one of those. Our startup program, like I mentioned, we have tools, resources, discounts, credits, including credits for AWS, cloud credits. In our program, we want all of our startups to join Writer. We absolutely love Writer, and we highlight Writer as many times as we possibly can, including at reInvent. So we have a large Inception team attending reInvent. Writer will be on my panel, and I hope everyone can join on Monday at reInvent, where I will be highlighting 6 of our amazing startups, including Writer. But please tell me really quickly, how has Inception, NVIDIA, AWS, how has this partnership helped you? Just one quick way.
We love Inception. It provides us lots of tools and resources to help us be successful and keep building Writer. And folks can definitely talk with Danny and James in the chat to get more information.
Amazing. I want to see everyone on my panel as well. On Monday, we'll stick the link in the chat. Make sure you're there.
Well, you got a Monday slot, which means people are more attentive on Monday. And as the week goes on, and especially after replay, things get kind of iffy. So doing great with the Monday slot. And Jen, I invite you to the On-Air booth on the expo floor where we'll be hosting live. So come by and say
I will be there.
Same for all of our viewers out there. Please come and say hi on the expo floor at reInvent in Las Vegas. So Sam, Jen, thank you very much.
All right, Art, always good to hear from our sponsors over at NVIDIA, and especially Jeff. He's been a busy guy this year. It's good to do a segment with him.
I know I haven't had as many segments with Jeff, but I've seen Jeff a lot, and Jeff is a great person. And I think people are looking forward to seeing Jeff, at reInvent, as he mentioned before.
All right, and speaking of Jeffs, why don't we bring in our favorite Jeff, which is Jeff Barr, for his news segment.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Art.
Hey, there's Jeff. What's going on,
Jeff? How you doing?
You know what? I am just sitting here working away and just kind of chiseling away at the reInvent blog post one by one by one. It's always a lot of work, but it's always a lot of fun. So still, I haven't quite climbed the entire mountain yet. I've got a couple more posts that need to be wrapped up in the next week, but it'll happen, pretty sure.
But you're prioritizing mine, right, Jeff?
I thought I already finished yours.
Yeah, actually, you did.
Oh, man. I almost mentioned the name, but yeah, I thought I finished that one.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right.
It's always fun. It's always stressful. It's always like, I don't know if I can actually pull the rabbit out of the hat this time, but I'm sure it'll happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, so what do you have for us this week? And I assume you're joining us as usual from Seattle?
I am actually. I'm on beautiful Vashon Island, which is just a little bit to the west of Seattle. We had a whole bunch of awesome weather here earlier in the week, which made life really fun. There's actually
that's a unique take on it.
They're still without power, believe it or not. So got kind of lucky.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure very many other Seattleites would call it a fun weather.
It was so a little bit further to the east, kind of right at the base of the Cascade Mountains. They caught the brunt of the wind. Yeah. So there's still a lot of folks out there out in the burbs that are without power, but we'll get better.
Well, hopefully Seattle gets back on its feet here soon.
Oh, it will, definitely. This was a crazy week for launches. So just quickly guess, how many AWS launches did we do yesterday?
I'm going to say 20.
All right.
I don't know, 25. I'll go up.
All right, we add 20 and 25, then we add 7 more, and we get to 52.
Holy shit, Christmas. I'm starting to understand why some of our product marketing friends are so stressed right now.
No kidding. Yeah, you want to hear about them?
Yeah, let's talk about them.
All right, so the first cool one is that Aurora Serverless V2 can now scale down to 0. And this is actually super, super cool. So Aurora is, of course, a relational database, and you can now scale all the way down to 0 compute units when there's no activity, no queries running, and no open connections. And what this means is you can start at no compute whatsoever, which we measure in terms of ACUs or Aurora compute units. You go all the way up to 256 and back down. This to me is just this like stunning range, like this entire buffet table worth of options. So you're from like the ACU is basically like 2 gigabytes of memory and then enough compute and networking to keep that fully occupied. So the low end is 0 and the top is half a terabyte of memory, which is just kind of stunning. Hard to think of something that would need that much, but I'm sure somebody in our audience actually can. And the way this works is you get to specify the pause, like that pause you take in the middle of your Thanksgiving dinner when you're not quite sure if you can have another round of your side dishes or not. you specify the pause anywhere from 5 minutes to 24 hours when you're firmly into like leftover territory. And so you specify the pause, and this works with both MySQL and PostgreSQL. And when you're scaled all the way back down to 0, you're paying only for the storage. And if you're scaled all the way down to 0, and then that first request comes in, it takes about 15 seconds to like turn the lights on and have the database up to speed and ready to respond. So when you're thinking about applicable situations for this, you need to think, okay, if I do scale all the way down to 0, can my app actually incur 15 seconds worth of wait time? But the thing is, because you can take the Aurora serverless and do various cluster scenarios, and you can do readers and writers and read replicas and so forth, you can there's actually a really ton of really cool scenarios you can start to think about. So you might have a situation where you want your writes to be instant, but maybe your reads can handle a 15-second spin-up delay if necessary. So in the blog post, there's actually some super neat diagrams of a lot of different ways to think about this. And the blog post, I would say, is required reading, not because I wrote it, because I didn't. But the blog post is required reading because there's a lot of nuance to this feature. It's super cool. It's super powerful. And I remember when we first launched Aurora Serverless V2, and customers said, "You're so close to 0. Why can't it just go to 0?" When you read through the blog post, you realize there's a lot of subtlety to that. There's just a lot of things you need to think through that the dev team had to think through and say, exactly under what circumstances does it scale to 0? How do we actually know? How do we keep customer data safe? There's lots and lots of little details to make sure you understand. So before you simply turn that knob all the way down to 0, be sure to read the blog post and make sure you understand.
Yeah.
All right.
I love the detail and the insight that's actually provided in that blog for everybody to take a look at. I think that's the key. So you give people an idea of the complexity of turning that dial down to 0 as well, and how to handle it too.
Yeah. So the next cool thing is some brand new CloudFormation hooks. And I'm pretty sure I wrote about hooks a long time ago, but I just revisited them, and they're super neat. So the idea is that within your AWS account, you go to the CloudFormation console, and you can create these hooks, which are basically just Lambda functions. And these Lambda functions run at various times as you do various things to your CloudFormation stacks and your templates and your chain set. So they can do various kinds of like rule enforcement and policy enforcement. They can do kind of checking and bookkeeping, and basically like specific kinds of stuff. You say, well, we maybe want to give a lot of people in our org the power to create CloudFormation templates and do things with them, but we want to have a couple of checks. Maybe there's a set of checks you run for like, I don't know, like maybe test versus production. Maybe you look at certain relationships between resources. Super neat way to make sure that you can do infrastructure as code, but then actually run some code at the right times to just check and make sure everything is in accord with what you want. So we launched 3 new kinds of hooks. The first is you can run against the entire template whenever you're launching a stack or doing a change set.
Right.
You can do it to enforce policies when you're using the Cloud Control API, when you're using the Cloud Control API to do creates and updates. And then we have something called Guard, which is a domain-specific language, or DSL. And basically the Guard is a set of security rules. And so you can now actually make sure that that when you run these DSLs, that the hook is also invoked to do more special checking and fine-tuning. We also, there's a hook about hooks, believe it or not, as well. So there's a hook that makes it easier for you to set them up. It used to be you had to go through and put the hook functions in the CloudFormation hook registry. You don't need that anymore. You can simply just go to the console and put the what's called the ARN, the Amazon resource number, the AWS resource number for the hooks in the console. So what this means, you don't have to keep re-registering your Lambda functions as you're experimenting with them. You can create that function, put it in the console, experiment with how it works against your templates and your stacks, and then iterate on the function a bit as you go without re-registering. Just edit that function in the console. So I think that's super cool. We'll share. There were 4 what's new items, but Nick only lets us post 1, so we'll just post 1.
Hey, Nick's the hard person here. I love that hooks about hooks, by the way. I think we have time for maybe one more here.
Oh, okay, perfect. I've got one more. One more is that CloudFront VPC origins. So this is another feature that helps our customers to build increasingly apps that just have a better and better security posture. So the idea is you can have a private subnet in your VPC, and you can create basically a distribution that reaches into that private subnet of the VPC to get content. So you can do this for new and existing CloudFormation or distributions. But this means that you can keep more and more of your infrastructure private. And that could be your application load balancers, your network load balancers, and your EC2 instances. Keep all of that on private subnets as locked down as possible, and then create this very, very thin, very, very controlled route into it with the VPC origin. So those are the cool things I've got for today. And again, just looking at yesterday's 52 launches, it was pretty hard to pick. So as always, check out the news blog, go to the What's New, follow me on LinkedIn, all those great places to learn more about what we're doing.
I don't know how you're able to just take the 53 down to the 3 that we have here today. Each of these are pretty exciting ones in and of themselves as well here. I think a lot of people, particularly on the VPC one out there who are listening today, I think there'll be a lot of benefits alone from that one as well.
I think so. You know, I didn't even have a chance to look at the chat. I was too busy just blabbering away, but always good to see there. But, you know, I'm super, super excited looking to meet everybody at reInvent. If you are going to be at reInvent, be sure to say hello if you see me. If you need to have some kind of a tech meeting or a business meeting, I am on our Peer Talk app, and people are free to propose meetings with me on Peer Talk as well.
All right, cool. And I believe I have a sticker and a pin from a prior reInvent with you,
Awesome.
Jeff. So
folks, I need to go and dig out that box of pins and bring a few more to reInvent.
There you go.
He's got a sticker and pin. I've got a bobblehead. You know, we've
Oh,
all
yes.
got Jeff Barr fan stuff. Jeff, thanks so much. I'm pretty sure you'll be back on maybe in like 20 minutes. So if folks have more questions for you, keep watching for the next 20 or so minutes. We'll get to talk to Jeff again.
I'll be back, as they say.
All right, Arnold. We'll talk to you later.
Awesome. See you soon.
All right, Art. Now I think we should just jump right into our next segment here. But first, we've got two things we got a quick shout out. One, we are now on the US Hero. So special shout out to all of our friends joining us from the US today. We've got a lot of our friends from Europe still watching. So thanks to everybody for continuing to support the show. And while you're here, you know, you might as well take a little 2-minute survey. It's 2 minutes if you go real slow. But really more like 30 seconds. First 50 respondents will get a code to win a pretty darn nifty hat at reInvent. Come find us at our booth. Give us the code that you get from taking the survey, and you'll get this hat while supplies last. So go ahead and come find us at the booth. Get a cool hat. All you got to do is take a survey and be brutally honest. Roast me, compliment Art, or vice versa. Whatever you guys want.
No, not vice versa. I have really thin skin, so I want only compliments.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, compliment Art, roast me, and while y'all do that, why don't we queue up our next segment?
Absolutely, let's go.
What's going on, John? Thanks for joining the show.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, you're from AWS App Studio. What exactly do you do? And first and foremost, I'm sorry, I'm jumping too far. Have you been to reInvent before? Let's start there.
Oh, great question. I have not been to reInvent. So almost 3 years at AWS. I'm a product manager here. I work with our customers, figure out their problems, and then build new products and solutions and services for them. But I've been pretty heads down in my first couple of years building App Studio. And so this will be the first reInvent. I've been at many, many tech conferences earlier in my career, a lot of them in San Francisco. And I'm excited, though, to be in Vegas and to be at reInvent and do a couple sessions.
Well, I can tell you it's virtually a guarantee. And I think Art will agree. It's like other tech conferences, maybe like an NFL game, maybe like the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Then there's reInvent like way up here. It's a big deal, you know.
That's what I tell my family, Nick, in that order. That's why I get to leave the Sunday after Thanksgiving to head out that way.
Exactly. But John, let's get into
Yeah.
your service. What do you do for Amazon? And then what is AWS App Studio?
Great. Yeah. So I'm a product manager, as I mentioned before, and I basically work with our customers and I figure out and I listen to their problems and figure out what are their pain points, what are the friction points, or what do they need to use AWS more effectively? And then I work with our engineering teams to figure out how we can build that. And so from that process, we heard from our customers very loud and clear that they loved AWS. They had these huge investments in data and Lambda functions and all the different things you've seen earlier in the show today. But they needed to enable more people within their organizations to build applications on AWS because it just turns out really hard to find developers, number one. And then number two, they just want to innovate even faster for these internal business processes that they have that they just can't afford or don't have time to prioritize when they're putting all their great developers on their consumer-facing web apps.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's not just that it's hard to find developers, it's you want your developers to utilize your developers most efficiently. And this is yet another way to help people be more efficient at what they do and be more focused on the important things for whatever your company is kind of actually end focused on getting done here.
That's exactly right. And so we built AWS App Studio, and it's what we believe the fastest and easiest way to build applications that are enterprise grade, meaning they're customized to your needs, they're intelligent, they're secure, and they're scalable. And when they're deployed, my team, the engineering team, handles all the management, the operations, the deployment, and the scalability of those applications for you. So you don't need to hand these applications off to a DevOps team, and you don't need to keep maintaining them yourself. You just get to focus on the business logic, and you get to focus on the experiences that your internal users need in these apps.
So that's really cool. So you make it really simple for folks. You handle all of the management of the application once it's been deployed. What kind of applications do people generally use App Studio for? And maybe you can show us a demo of a couple of them too for us.
Yeah, I'm definitely a visual learner, so I'm all about seeing this bad boy in action.
Absolutely, and it's gonna be interactive. So Nick and Art, you're gonna earn your paycheck today.
Oh man, okay.
I would say, with App Studio, our customers love using this product to build what we call these internal business process apps. So think about all the apps that you typically use as an employee at your company. You submit PTO requests, those get reviewed and approved by a series of different managers or HR chains. That had to be built by someone, and it has to be maintained by someone. What about your expense management app? Or what about all those different applications that we use on a daily basis? I mean, probably 50, 100 of those applications. And a lot of our customers just don't have time or developers to innovate on new employee experiences. And so we've built App Studio to help you do that much easier.
And real quick, before we dive into this, we got a really great question here. How does App Studio differ from Amplify Studio?
Yeah, great question. So App Studio is really focused, as I said, on those internal business applications. And Amplify is really excelling at your consumer-facing experiences, your front-end web and mobile experiences that are deployed to websites and to mobile applications. So very simple example, say you're a huge bank, you're going to build your mobile app that lives on your iPhone or your Android device with Amplify. But then you're going to build your internal applications to administer and to manage content and do all the back-end knobs, levers, and systems for that application with App Studio as an operational portal or a place to manage your metrics or a place to run all of your other services.
So I guess we would say that Amplify and App Studio are complementary to each other here.
Absolutely complementary. And they really enable an organization to innovate from your internal applications for employees to your external applications for your consumers.
Awesome. All right. I say we better create an app.
Yeah, so we're going to build. We're just going to jump in. Here you're seeing the Builder Hub. This basically is your starting point. We have a lot of other admin functionality that we can go into later at a different segment. But the main thing to take away here is that this is not in the AWS console. You don't need AWS access to be a builder or to use App Studio. It is enabled from your company's AWS account, But once it's enabled, you have the standalone web experience, and anyone within your organization can get access to build and use these applications. So we're just going to
think
jump
that's a great thing to pause on too, John, because that's a good call out. You don't need access to a console. It makes it even easier for customers to get up and running with this. And it sounds like even if you aren't, like you said, a developer, like super experienced, you can still use this. It's a very accessible tool.
Absolutely. Yep. So what I did here is I hit the button called Create an App, and we're going to jump right into our generative AI experience. And what this allows you to do is describe the application that you want, and then iterate with our AI agents to customize that application. And then at the end of this process, which takes under 60 seconds, we're going to have an app that we can actually hit preview and see in a web browser and start kind of testing out with some sample data. So this is where I need some help, either Nick or Art, or maybe from the audience even. If you have an app idea, let's do it live. This is a live demo, live show.
Yeah.
So I want to do something that's unrehearsed, which may or may not go well. We'll see.
Yeah, why don't we, so, guys in the audience, that's your cue to jump into action here. Give us an idea, business application that you could use in your everyday office life. While people are talking about that, I just had another question for you, John, to give them 30 seconds to type or so. So to be clear, this isn't like you don't need a code, you don't need certain keywords. You just type plain English into this bar, and like you don't have to worry about SQL or anything code language, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, for example, if I wanted to build this inventory management app for IT equipment, say I'm a company and, I need a way for new hires to onboard and request a mouse and keyboard. I need some system to make that programmatic. I've simply described it here. We have all these different sample prompts on the right that you can learn from, and you can kind of get started.
Gotcha. Well, it looks like we've got our first suggestion here. Can you create an application for managing weddings? So maybe tracking guests and let's say the food choices associated with each guest.
Sure. All right. So let's say, let's make it a little broader. Let's say like event management app.
Yeah. I just was working on an event as well. And the complexity of managing, an event such as like a reInvent, Nick, is as complex as, and maybe even more than a wedding as well. I know, I'm sorry for the person managing the wedding. I know it's complex, but you can take it to another level with vendors and stuff like that if you're doing an event management thing too.
10 seconds. I just simply described a small little app here for the event management space.
Yeah, can you read out what you typed there, John, just so our listeners and not our viewers can see it?
Sure. So I just typed an event management app that allows submissions and proposals, approvals of the events, and allows different inputs on food types and entertainment options. So once we type that in, our AI agents go to work and they start trying to figure out, what does this app need? What are the requirements? It kind of becomes the product manager, and it figures out what are these key use cases? What are the data sources?
Can you zoom in on this a little bit just so people can see it a little bit easier?
Yeah, so here we have some key use cases. For example, if you're an organizer, they can submit event proposals, attendees can submit information, administrators can control if it's approved or not. And then we have different flows. This coordinates what are the UI pages that you need in your application. There's some data modeling if you want to really dig into, what does your data model look like? These are your database tables under the scenes. And then we give you an app overview, which is a natural language description of your app. And so we're just going to hit generate. We could describe a change that we wanted and adjust this, but we're going to generate, and it's going to take all those requirements and distill that down into an actual app. And when we land in here, this is App Studio's visual builder. I'm not going to click any other button other than preview app. And it's going to open a new tab, and this is going to show us the app that our AI just generated in that very, very short period of time. And so the expectation is not that it's pixel perfect from the beginning, but this is really taking that idea to a functional app for you to iterate on from maybe days or weeks to now seconds. And so you can really get this jumping off point going of hey, I've got this app, I can see it, I see the interactions, I see the UI pages, I have a data model, and I can start using it. So as you can see,
crazy how fast this generates too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and not just how fast it generates it, I can also see how much time and effort that it takes up, that it reduces, excuse me. And to the earlier questioners ask, our Twitch questioner, this could similarly, I could envision this being used to manage your wedding that's coming up here too, because you could be the admin and you could subsume some of these roles that have been placed in here too from an event perspective. So you might want to actually try it out to do that.
Yeah, and or if you're a wedding planning company, this is a great way to have a very verticalized system to track your customers and track your own events. So what you can see is I previewed. There was a small bit of delay. You didn't see any data in this application. So what's kind of happening behind the scenes is that we have more AI agents that are doing different tasks to kind of help you throughout this whole process. So one of those agents was generating some sample data. So I refreshed the page, it reloads, and now you can see some sample data in this app. And I can go through this app and really experience it as I would if I was a user. So I can look at these events, I can see the details of these events. If I click on gourmet dinner, I can see this has a description. I have entertainment options that are related to these events.
I'm interested in the dessert bar. Just
the dessert bar. Yeah, that's everyone's favorite, right?
Wait, we've got another follow-up question from our wedding planner here. Are we able to iterate with prompts and say like, okay, maybe this is great starting point, but I also want the capability to send emails, from this? Like, can you keep adding features on with future iterations of this app?
You can, yeah. So this is one of our newly launched announcements with our GA this week. A little sad that Jeff didn't call us out, but I'll give him a pass since we got scheduled on the session right after his news segment. But on Monday, we announced the general availability of App Studio and some really cool new features. One of them being a way to modify your applications with that same natural language assistant, just like to generate your app. So let's see here. Maybe we can add a page super quickly, and maybe I need a feature to summarize my invoices, right?
I want to offer two things while you bring that up. One, just tradition is Jeff doesn't actually overlap with the demo that we have for the day, so there's no shade on Jeff. Didn't call you out because you already got a spot. And number two, it does look like Willow Tree though finds your content super cool, and that may
I believe
the
phrase is mad cool art. That's what the kids are saying these days. Yeah,
but I'm not a kid.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
Look at this hair,
It's super nifty.
Yeah. I got it. I did this because of Jeff.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. We've got another question here from Begin Hunt. Says, any idea on the LLM model it's using, or is that something that's kind of our secret sauce?
Great question. So what I can share is that we're using Bedrock under the scenes to power all of our generative AI capabilities. And all of our different agents that are performing these tasks are using different models. So we use a variety of models, and they're really tailored to the task at hand. And our engineering team has done an amazing job, along with our science team, figuring out what are the best models, what's the best performance, what's the best accuracy, to really deliver not only an accurate experience, but one that's maintainable, cost-effective.
Yeah, I would also suggest to folks out there that it's actually it's not very unusual to be using a lot of different models to create an app like this, or any sort of app. You'll find when you start getting into this LLM space that you need this kind of tailoring of the specific models in order to provide the most accurate response to your application and for what you're developing.
That's right. Yeah, and we really see it as a way to optimize the experience for the user. And we want to maintain, the reason we don't explain which models are under the scenes is that we're often upgrading and adding new capabilities. Gotcha. And, like I was just explaining, now you can modify your applications with AI as we were chatting with it. That took a different model than the model to just generate brand new assets or do the requirements gathering stage that we showed at the very beginning. So we don't commit that we're using certain models, but just know that as you're using the product, it will continue to get better over time, and we'll use the best models that are available based on the features that we have in the product.
Okay.
Gotcha. I think we've got time for maybe one more question because we've got them pouring in from the audience here, and I want to make sure we get as many as we can. So we got another one from Iconaut. I don't know how to pronounce half of these, but it says, is the code portable? Can I take the product off Cloud Studio and deploy anywhere else, or is this dependent on the Cloud Studio framework?
Very good question. One of the great architectural underpinnings of App Studio is that we generate real code, and we deploy that real code, which happens to be TypeScript, uses Nest.js and React, and all the modern web languages and frameworks that are available. And we deploy that into a fully managed hosting environment. So today, it's currently not possible to take that code and port it to a different cloud or to a different service or to run it yourself, because we really think one of the big value adds for this new persona and this new set of builders we're enabling is being able to have all the operations, deployment, maintenance, and operations fully managed by our team that does this for 24/7, 365, rather than having the builders who don't have that experience or that DevOps time to run and maintain those applications.
Gotcha. Well, John, this is awesome. This is definitely one that I kind of want to play with after the show is over. We've got like 30 seconds here. I want to make sure you have a last word. What is something you want to make sure the audience leaves with to get them to go try this guy out?
Yeah, what I would leave you with is it's free to build. Go enable it in your AWS account today. You can get started. You get your own instance. It's very easy to hook up either in an evaluation mode or to your corporate identity so that you don't have to manage usernames and passwords. And then we have some great new features. So if you've seen App Studio before in our preview, we've launched 4 or 5 new exciting products with GA features inside of App Studio. Modify your apps with Gen AI, some new packaged built-in generative AI components so that you can add generative AI to your app without doing any wiring, without any coding, just tweak the natural language prompts. You can now generate custom business logic from natural language, and that'll generate small blocks of JavaScript, complete with code comments and code references. And you can theme and style your applications now. So you can add logos and banner images and even select custom colors so the apps can really look like apps that your company built and that match all your brand guidelines and style guides.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in reInvent in real life this year. And thanks for coming along to do this demo today.
Thank you so much for having me. We're looking forward to it. Please join an App Studio session at reInvent. We've got 5 or 6 of them, including some hands-on sessions.
All right, cool. We'll see you there, John. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Man, love that. Also love the audience interaction. In case folks don't know, Art and I are not robots. So we do read the comments. If you see us glancing to the side, well, maybe Art is, yeah. If you see us glancing to the side, it's because we're reading your comments. We want to make sure you get all of your questions answered. If we didn't get to yours on the live show, we've got experts backstage to answer them for you. And speaking of experts, I'm loving these transitions today, Art. Speaking of experts, I think we want to bring the AWS expert back on and talk to him about his own reInvent experiences. I'm up for Jeff Barr round 2. What about you, Art?
I'm always up for more time with Jeff. So
let's
bring him back.
Let's bring Jeff back, yeah. There he is. All right. How you doing, Jeff? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been about 25 minutes.
Wait, 24 minutes too long in my book.
Totally. Yeah. You ready for those wings we're going to do?
Oh, I've been prepping. I actually went to the grocery store last weekend, and we had a bunch of Buffalo Wild Wings, and we're trying out some different sauces. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see how much we can get. People don't know. Jeff and I think on Tuesday, I'm looking at my producer Tina backstage here. Tuesday evening to close out the show at reInvent, Jeff and I will be participating in a hot wings interview, where it's the classic format of let's see how hot we can get before we aren't able to talk anymore. So Jeff's been talking a lot of trash. So it should be a pretty entertaining segment, I think.
I am looking forward to it.
I will not be participating, for the record, in a hot wings contest. I tap out real fast. I mean, you got to know your limits. So, I'm not worthy of a contest.
I don't know. Well, if that's the case, I feel like you need to stop by and just take the hottest one. Just YOLO. Say you did it.
Or are you kidding? No, I'm a baby when it comes to it.
It's been a couple years since I've really gone all out with the hot. So I hope I can deal with it. We'll see.
I think it's gonna be fun. I'm curious how. I've always wondered how hot like the super hot sauces are. So I think this is gonna be pretty entertaining. All right. Well, Jeff, we wanted to bring you back, kind of similar vein of what we were doing with Leah to kick off the show. You've obviously been around AWS since even before reInvent was a thing. So we kind of thought it'd be fun to get your perspective on the event. Maybe give us some of the perspective from the news blog that you founded and everything else. How many reInvents have you been to? Let's start there.
I have been to all of them. So I just checked, and the first one was 2012.
Man.
And
okay.
I think early that year, I wrote a post that said, we're going to be doing this big event, basically save the date. And then I wrote another one that said, okay, it's going to happen. Sign up. I did another one or two that said, okay, here's how to actually get ready and what to expect. And the funny thing is, I don't think I knew what to expect, because up until arriving there for the keynote, I certainly knew AWS was a big thing, and that we were succeeding and growing, and like we're building things, and I'm seeing new people getting hired all the time. And it just, there's definitely this abstract sense of growth and success and customers, but it's hard to actually map that into reality, I found out. But I have this very clear memory of walking into the keynote room. I think we had 6,000 chairs set up for that keynote, and I got there early so I could get a good seat. And all of a sudden, seeing those chairs was this very profound experience that said, this is the reality. These are our customers. These are the people that are like actually using AWS and counting on me to deliver news to them. And it's like, oh, this is a very real thing. And that memory has stuck with me. What also stuck with me is we only did a few keynote launches that first year, but in subsequent years, we've really honed our launch process. We have this entire room full of folks that are working really hard to get all the different pieces online. I was the entire launch operations team basically at that moment. And the first one or two launches, Andy would announce something from the stage, and I just pull up my browser and like put the post online. And even though I was sitting somewhere to the back, I realized someone behind me could actually see the announcement on my screen like a couple seconds before it went. And this was the lack of actual preparation that I did for that first one. Like the content was there. It turned out one of our big launches was the preview of Redshift.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm like, oh, I need to be somewhere else. And so I stepped out of that keynote, and it was quite a while before I actually was able to get to another keynote, because they were always over capacity. So we would always want to give the space first to our customers. But the energy and the excitement never changes. You know, one thing that did change though is the first one was just in a little bit of the Venetian, and it was a contained space. It was so contained that I remember we got there on Sunday and didn't leave until Wednesday or Thursday. Most of us never got any fresh air the entire week.
Yeah.
But it was small enough that at some point you could realize that you had seen every attendee in some way, and you'd start to recognize individual people. But you could also sample every experience that we had, which was kind of awesome. You could visit all the different kinds of sessions and the hands-on. I remember we had a couple different big rooms where people could do training, and they could take certification tests and all kinds of cool stuff. But you could get this full sense of what all of reInvent was. I'm not quite sure when that became impossible, but it's 100%. It's not just improbable; it's absolutely impossible now to think you could sample everything.
Yeah.
So given that, first, I love to hear about how many of those things still haven't changed. You can still meet the folks to get certification and training and learn from that, all the things that are still the same. Do you have any advice, given that so many people, 70%, I think, is our number of people who come to reInvent are new each year? Do you have any advice for a new attendee and things that they might want to do to make it easy to come and to adapt and learn?
Yeah, I would say, so first, wear really comfortable shoes. You're going to be doing 10 to 20,000 steps a day for sure. Definitely come to learn and to go to sessions, but also make sure you spend some time actually just meeting people and connecting with people, whether it's people that are from wherever you came from, or people in your industry, or people from AWS service teams, or any of us. Just like connect with folks and just make it about people as much as it is about the tech and the services, because honestly, you could just sit at home and you could just watch social media and watch the videos and say, oh yeah, I consumed enough content to be like a reInvent. But there's an energy and an intensity that you get from being in person that you really get a better sense of what you're part of. That you're not the only one that's the AWS person in your org, and you say, well, there's tens of thousands of people doing things similar to what I do that are all so excited about this, and you can get a little bit caught up in that energy and excitement. So make sure you're good at, and I totally get that a lot of people are like not good at connecting up with strangers and even just coming up and saying hello. That's me sometimes, actually. And I come across like I'm like super willing to just chat and be very, very outgoing and extroverted. I'm also happy just being really quiet, and I'm not always the one to go up and say hello either. So if you're like, wow, I could go talk to that person, but like I'm too quiet or shy, they might be the same way. So just burst that bubble and go for it.
And I would also, I feel like it's a safe space, especially with when you're a techie person and you want to kind of interact with people. Some of these interactive sessions, maybe even going to like a workshop or a builder session. Now you can turn to the person to your right or left who you're there with, and you can ask a question. Hey, I got through these steps. Can you help me? And now you create kind of connection with more people as well in the room. And you'll discover you're not the only person that has a problem. And don't be afraid to ask. I think that's great advice.
That's so important, because some of us are actually held out as being experts in all things AWS. And there's this impression that we somehow know everything about every service. But the reality is, I always feel like I'm just skating on really thin ice, because I'm always just having to know just a little bit about everything. And there's no harm in saying, hey, I have no clue about that, but let's do a bit of a search and figure it out and understand it. And we're all like moving into the future so fast that maybe I'm 3 minutes ahead of you at best. That might literally be fast.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible thing to say, because everybody, we're an expert in a certain area. You can't be an expert in all things, and so it's really hard. And even people, I've made a mistake even giving a workshop before to people, and the only one in one of my workshops I didn't finish the project. But that even all of us who have knowledge can make mistakes, and we all learn from each other as well. And that, I think, kind of lifts all boats. Rising tides lifts all boats.
I think so. I really enjoy meeting people and meeting our customers, and not just hearing about what they've built, but hearing that their tech journey and the fact that they learned something new at reInvent, and maybe that helped them to get a step up in their job. Maybe they got a new kind of a job. It's been, and then that they're on this really awesome path that they're like, oh, the fact that they put that work into to learn and to build and to engage has made a difference for them and for their families and for their future. I find that really inspiring, and I never tire of hearing those kinds of stories.
Yeah, and talking about like questions from the audience and interacting with everybody, we actually got a really good question about your personal journey in tech, Jeff, from Marcus Burgo during your last news segment. I want to make sure we save some time for you to answer this. He's asking, given your extensive career in AWS and the cloud and your hands-on approach to educating everybody through the news blog, how challenging is it to kind of adjust to the Gen AI craze that's come over the world in the last year or so?
Oh, it's absolutely challenging, but there's so much is happening so fast, and we look at the amount of human energy and computational energy going into building these new models and these new tools, and you can't be an expert at everything. If you try really hard, you might be really good at writing prompts for one version of one LLM right now, or you might be really good at using one tool like the one that we just saw in our previous segment. Don't feel bad if you think you're behind, but find one piece and say, okay, I'm going to do my best to stay really, really fresh and current on this particular thing. And there's a bit of motivation sometimes in like feeling that you're not quite caught up, but there's also demotivation of thinking, man, I'm just overwhelmed by the possibilities, and there's overwhelmed by all the things I could do. So find one part of it that you can latch onto and be awesome at that part, and then worry about the rest later, or just don't worry about that part at all.
All right. I think that's a really good piece of advice to end on. I know our producers are telling us we've got like 20 more minutes. We need to save time for our last launch segment here. But Jeff, thank you so much for coming back on, giving everybody those insights and kind of giving us that history of reInvent. It's really interesting hearing about that first one with you launching those blog posts when my first job at AWS like 5 years ago was helping run the launch room. And to say the security and the procedure has upped a bit since then would be an understatement.
No kidding.
So that's kind of funny to hear.
We have this awesome part of the reInvent app called Peer Talk. And
Yeah.
you can find me, you can probably find Art, you can find a lot of other AWS folks. I don't know if you're on there, Nick, or not, but you should be.
I'm going to check it out, yeah.
You can have time with us. If you have a need to discuss about a special AWS need or a technology, find us and book us on Peer Talk. It's a great way to have meetings happen. You can also find people that are experts in different topics, or you can just kind of find your tribe of other folks from whatever industry you're working in or technology you're working with or whatever you kind of access you have in common.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that.
And it really helps to make my time at reInvent more interesting and productive and even more worthwhile. So definitely check out Peer Talk.
Yeah, that's a fantastic tip. Jeff, thanks so much. It's always great having you. And I'm excited for our wing eating contest. I'll be training for it again this Sunday, I'm sure.
I didn't know training was allowed, but okay.
First one to drink milk loses. I think that's the side bet.
All right.
All right.
All right, Nick. See you guys later.
Bye.
All right. I love hearing from Jeff. He's the best storyteller I think I've ever met. So it's always
he is, and some of that advice is so prescient to everybody. I think, taking an area of focus in on it, become more knowledgeable about that, and then you can kind of slowly expand from there on out. But I think we have another guest coming, and we have our final segment here. Oh, yeah. Wait, did I forget something?
No, I was saying one more. It's our last one.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were. Yeah, we got one final one here. So without further ado, producer, let's introduce our next segment here.
Let's do it. What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us. We've been in the back room for like an hour here, so thanks for being patient.
I've been getting super excited. Yeah, seeing all these new launches. Wow, like this is crazy.
Yeah, that's the perfect answer, Kevin. Thank you. All right, what about
the perfect answer? So I think what we teased up here is a little discussion about Amazon Cognito. Maybe both of you, Kevin and Rahul, can introduce yourself, and then we can start with exactly what is Amazon Cognito and how can people learn a little bit more about that. And Rahul, logistically, it looks like your video's off. Sorry to call you out.
Am I visible now?
We'll start with Kevin. Rahul's figuring his stuff out. Kevin, why don't we start with you?
No worries. So I'm a principal identity specialist in AWS, and I guess I've been in the whole identity space now for over 27 years, but just in AWS about 2.5 years. And in terms of like what a principal identity person does within the go-to-market team, I help interface between like marketing, the one-to-many mechanisms, internal training, or field essays, and talking to customers and feeding a lot of this stuff back to the product team.
All right.
Gotcha. What about you, Rahul? It looks like Rahul's back. What do you do for Cognito?
Yeah, glad the video is back on. I'm a product manager with the Amazon Cognito team. I've been with AWS 4 years, and I'm super excited to be back on AWS OnAir actually after 3 years. Feels like just yesterday. But
oh man, you were on some of the OG programs, and if it's been 3 years.
I know. But today is like a very special day for us. Like super thrilled to talk to you about like Cognito and everything hot off the press. Like we just announced a series of launches earlier in the day. So both me and Kevin are like dying to like just come and
just to give our studio audience here a bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain, if you will. It was pretty funny. Rahul's like emailing me this morning thinking, I think we're gonna go live like an hour before the show starts. So definitely gave me some white hairs. I'm glad everything worked out and you guys were able to be on the show. But this is about as hot off the presses as we've ever had on air. So it's pretty cool that you guys were able to end our show today.
Absolutely. In some ways, it's been like a week of all-nighters, but it's also been like 6 months of all-nighters.
Yeah.
And man, what a labor of love. Well, I'll go on and work late into the night and look on Slack and just see the entire team still working. And it's been crazy this last 6 months.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Rahul and Kevin, can you, before we dive into everything, quickly give us, what is Amazon Cognito generally, before we get into all the exciting stuff you guys just announced an hour and a half ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So Amazon Cognito in the most simplest way can be thought of as an AWS service that enables developers to like build and implement secure, seamless, and like customizable sign-in and sign-up experiences for their applications really quick. What we consistently hear from our developers, Nick and Art, is that building a robust authentication system is hard. Think about user registration, user management, like secure sign-in, sign-up, protecting against like suspicious or malicious logins. It's really hard and time-consuming to implement. That's where Amazon Cognito comes in. We are here in the picture to take away all that undifferentiated heavy lifting for developers so that developers can focus on building the business logic for their applications. So
yeah,
that's
security. Amazon. Yeah, security is so important. And I got to say, I've always thought that y'all had one of the cooler names in the Amazon portfolio. Cognito is pretty up there. But also I want to give a quick shout out to a girl named Chris. It looks like in the chat, somebody that's getting new into the cloud computing game, trying to earn some certifications. So always love to see that in our comments section. We do pay attention to comments. So guys, you have Rahul and Kevin here for the next, 13 minutes. Ask them questions about security. Ask them questions about Cognito. They've been riled up and ready to go here for the last hour. So make sure you let them know what you're wondering about. Let them know what you think of their new launch here. So thanks for that brief overview, guys. What did we just announce today? Like, what is being added on to the Cognito tool?
Sure. So this has been, this is, gosh, just an incredible launch. Cognito is about 10 years old at this point, and a lot of our previous releases have been sort of modernizing infrastructure. It kind of, we've been the victims of our own success and just massive growth within all this time. And so for this, we wanted to launch something really special, give a lot of features back, and really focus on the whole developer persona. So what we're launching with all of this is a whole new managed login experience. So you can now match your look and feel and everything of that whole consumer site. You want to build the next mobile app, the next great site. We'll now match all that with these authentication and registration pages. And this goes way beyond just uploading a cascading style sheet or uploading a logo. This is like the entire design platform that where you can build out these pages. With this as well, we're launching 3 forms of passwordless authentication right out of the box with many workflows like login orchestration, along with WebAuthn passkeys and a whole new developer-first journey with as well the new SKUs to go with this.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think, we've got 12 minutes here. I'm excited to see this in action. I'm sure Art is too. Why don't we get to the demo and kind of keep the conversation going from there?
I'm all about the demo. And I
love even as a T-shirt that says it. I think all about the demo, right, Art?
You may laugh, but I do. And next time I'll wear it. Okay? So watch out.
Mad cool.
Awesome. And so, we really started with the developer experience on all this stuff. It used to be that when you went to go and create your first tenant-based user directory, what we lovingly call user pools, you'd have to kind of go through 40 or 50 configurations, and it was kind of a lot to get started. We now really shrunk down this process and turned it into a much simpler wizard to compress the time frame of kind of 0 to hero for your developer journey. And so with this, let's kind of kick this off with your next application. And depending on what sort of a framework or thing you're looking to build, maybe it's going to be an Android app or iPhone app or machine-to-machine flows. You can then go and choose your application.
Wait, Kevin, real quick, while we're still choosing the apps, we got a question hot off the presses too. Can you use Cognito to create authentication for something created in App Studio? Trying to tie it back to our earlier segment.
We haven't tried that yet, but I'm pretty sure it probably will work, but I'll need to dig more into App Studio. Just seeing this episode, that was the first I've seen it, but we've been so laser focused on.
That's fair. Okay. So let's keep going.
Once we've chosen the app, we can then cut over and just say like, okay, how do you want folks to sign in? With email, phone number, username, maybe even mobile first app. Maybe we just want to choose like a username with an email for authentication. And then essentially, how do you want your OAuth and OpenID Connect to work with a callback URL? maybe this is just like a local host for a dev site. You go and create this, and boom, you've got now your tenant-based user directory. We've made all the intelligent choices for you. All this stuff is then up and ready to go. You can then choose sort of what frameworks you want to go.
Wait, that kind of impresses me with how fast that is. Is everything usually this fast, or is it? I assume it didn't not. I assume that's a pretty good upgrade there in and of itself, right?
Oh, that alone. I mean, we actually brought in some external developers, principal SDEs, to kind of go through and tear apart the whole getting started process. And so we completely rethought how this all works. And
yeah, that's awesome.
And so kind of kicking you off into the framework of your choice, giving you all the code snippets you need to get started, how you're going to run this stuff, what are the code bits you need to put in there. And then, once you've got that, well, you've actually now got your first app sort of ready to get started and going. And from here, we can then actually go and customize, how we're going to log into the system and do some of these things, because we want to have a nice look and feel for all this stuff. Maybe we want to turn on passwordless. And so for folks who are familiar with Cognito, they'll see already this entire this new console is a very different experience from what it was before, where you can now do fast user switching of different tenant directories. Go ahead. There's a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're getting lots of questions jumping in here. I want to make sure we address some of them because they're all related to what you're saying. With that, legacy Cognito implementations, will we be able to migrate those to this new version?
Yes.
100%. Yes. That's what we want to hear.
Oh, it's all about the upgrade. Cognito has a robust.
It's all about the demo. Sorry.
We're a large customer base, so it was super important that we get those folks in there. So maybe now that I got my.
And I'm sorry, real quick before we keep going. From LinkedIn, what about desktop apps? Can you use this on desktop apps as well?
If your desktop app can integrate on the level of using OAuth OpenID Connect for login experiences, like it breaks over to a browser-based setup, then you can. But otherwise, it's really meant for web-based or sort of phone app-based setup.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry for the interruptions there. Let's keep rolling.
No worries. So we can actually go ahead and get started and start creating that next login experience. And so with this, I'll shrink this console. We can actually see kind of what your default login experience is going to look like out of the box. It's pretty straightforward.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe we'll go into this branding designer and start kind of toggling some different options and thinking about how we want to change this. And it can be changing all the components of like how buttons look with different border radiuses, maybe give it a little more Amazonian feel. Maybe we want to toggle the background with, let's launch say a pet store application. That's not going to quite work. My login form is right in front of my pet. So we can actually maybe move that over to the side. Maybe we'll add a logo inside the form with that as well.
All right.
I love this picture, by the way. I don't know where it came from, but
wild pets, yeah.
And I love the name.
And so likewise, then maybe we want to start customizing some of the look and feel of the colors of these things. And so we can actually even use a color picker, like, let's see, maybe something like that.
Like purple. Oh, okay.
Give it a little pet feel.
There we go.
With those things. And yeah, even start adding things like headers and footers. Maybe we'll add a header logo at the start. And put that in there. Put in a little bit of a background. Maybe we'll give it another doggy look and feel. And we're cutting his ears off, so we'll give it some transparency. Okay, and then, yeah, within just kind of a couple of steps, you're starting to have a really nicely customized site with all this. But then it goes way beyond all this, where you're seeing just kind of some of the base controls, but maybe I want to customize all sorts of other components of this. Well, now you can start to see, what all those components are of, going into all the different backgrounds and components for headings and text fields and bits. And to give it just a little concept of this, we can look at our buttons and say like, oh, the hover state's not quite right, or constructs of secondary buttons. Okay. So then you have access to all those different components. And likewise, maybe I want to see these buttons in the context of my page. And maybe I want to see this as well and how it would look on like, an iPad or an iPhone, which is probably going to look a little strange on my screen all all zoomed in like this.
Yeah.
But you then can see all these sort of different constructs or what different pages will look like.
By the way, I think this we shouldn't simplify how important this is, because in the past what you had to do was physically deploy the app on your phone to be able to see how it looked on the phone and stuff like that. So to be able to create a vision here that makes this really simplifies the application developer experience for somebody in mass while they're trying to develop this.
Yeah, this is really cool.
And authentication and registration pages are really the attack surface area of your website. With identity being that kind of the perimeter of your app, this is what gets hammered by attacks, and especially all these different bot attacks where the majority of the traffic on the internet is bad bots, and it's trying to run like credential stuffing attacks, all sorts of things. So these sites are super expensive for customers to kind of stand up, and a lot of developers, they're not necessarily front-end developers who are doing a lot of the security stuff, and it becomes a mismatch of design and security. And so we're trying to make as much as this just happen right out of the box as easily as possible.
And Kevin, we got a lot of people, like our comments are getting flooded with people asking, does it work with X, Y, and Z? We've got our first question from YouTube today. Does it work with AWS Identity Center's single sign-on?
Does it work with Identity Center single sign-on? So we can integrate the two. You can set up one to log in and essentially have single sign-on to the other. Cognito is like a federation hub in that respect, so you can federate them together. And so depending on how you want to sort of multiplex users or different federation providers, you can absolutely do stuff like that.
Awesome. All right, well, let's keep going. Love how customizable this is kind of and like how fast this is. It are the two things that are really sticking out to me, because usually I feel like especially security stuff takes so long. So the fact that we've been able to do this quickly and be this intuitive of a user design is really awesome, I think.
Absolutely. And so we can actually cut over as well to look at, how some of this stuff looks at runtime, like what is an orchestrated flow? Now that we've added these new 3 forms of password lists, how does this then come together with with doing other types of authentication? How do we actually make this stuff roll out? And so here I have just a little API tester application, and I haven't logged in yet. So I can go sign in with Cognito. And I have my new login screen up here. You can actually move all these things across, and maybe I want to move the social identity accounts to the side or do different things. All that stuff is customizable. So let's actually go and create a new account. And maybe I will create a simple Alice account. With a password, and we'll go ahead and sign up. Now, once we signed up, I've actually turned passwordless on this account, and so we can actually then start to do passkeys. So in this particular computer, I'm on my AWS machine, which is completely locked down. They've locked off the fingerprint sensor, the Face ID sensor, the Windows Hello, all those capabilities. But you can actually still set up passkeys using like your iPad, iPhone, Android device, or I've even just plugged in a YubiKey in here, and I can do that. So let me just go through some of those prompts. Touch my key, and that's all registered.
Wow.
And
wow.
And so if I wanted to go back,
Look also agrees. Wow. Getting lots of wow here, guys.
Well, a lot of time savings. I feel like that's a theme for the whole day today is how all of these apps that have been launched can really, really help the developer experience. So, you know what? I'm unfortunately going to have to rudely drop today. So,
what?
I know. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We appreciate it, Art. Sorry. I think we're a little bit over. All right. Guys, let's finish up real quick here in the next few minutes. I think we can go a couple minutes over here because the audience seems to like this. So we've got about 2 minutes. How can we wrap this up for everybody?
Yeah, I think I want to like add one thing that Kevin brought about, like in terms of like security, phishing resistant technology, like passkeys being supported, and kind of combining that with the earlier question from the listeners about like, is it easy to like migrate over or switch to this new set of capabilities? One thing that I want listeners to like take home is earlier, like previously, like Cognito has in fact threat protection capabilities as part of advanced security features. An important part of this release is we are exposing all these threat protection capabilities and beyond, like passwordless authentication, managed login, which Kevin demoed, at a price point which can be up to 60%, like 60% like less expensive compared to what customers were paying. So that's one piece of data that I want to like share with all the listeners listening in.
That's super cool. And Kevin, I want to give you a chance too. Do you have any lasting things you want viewers to take away here as we look at the iconic market in Seattle here?
Yeah, so this page was actually put together by one of our Cognito SAs, and who has much more of a design flair than myself. But yeah, it goes to show how quickly you can just quickly put together these types of sites. And indeed, I guess building on it off of what Rahul just mentioned, we're not forcing any sort of upgrades, but it's almost crazy not to kind of move forward on these new SKUs. It's offering so much more functionality right out of the box. And indeed, especially going up to our top SKU, it is up to 60% off. And so it's, best deal in security just became even better.
That's awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. I think that's a great note to end on. Kevin and Rahul, thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys going to be reInvent this year?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, then I'll see you guys in Vegas, and those watching, see if you can give them a shout out too. Let them know how these new Cognito features are working. It's going to be fun to play around with. I think it's pretty cool what you guys have done here today. So go sleep some now for the first time in 6 months.
Awesome. And we have a Cognito Builder session going on where you can actually do all this stuff and mess with the new capabilities.
All right, everybody, there you go. Check it out. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Well, it looks like Art has left me to finish up here today. So, guys, thank you so much for joining the 2024 Road to reInvent special. I hope you enjoyed all the interviews and tips and tricks today. Hopefully, we answered as many of your questions as we could. And if we didn't answer them live, hopefully we were able to get to them in the chat. If you haven't taken the survey already, go ahead and take it now. Let us know what you think of the program. Let you know how we can improve next year. Be sure to tune in live during reInvent December 1st through the 5th. We're going to have some really cool stuff that week. So let us know what you think of the show. Get a code for a free hat at reInvent while supplies last. And guys, this is our last weekly show of the year. So we'll see you guys for the weekly show in 2025. But we'll definitely see you guys that first week of December for reInvent. Please join us live. Come say hi at the booth. Get a free hat. Have some laughs. If you're wondering where we're at, just look for the crowd of people on the expo floor weeping tears of joy. That's probably the AWS OnAir booth. So hope to see as many of you guys there as we can, and have a great weekend, everybody.